I first met Honk at the beginning of the film, he was grieving. I didn't realize it at the time, but he was grieving the loss of his mate. And I was a lifeline for him to help him through that grief. Then throughout the film, when he became this viral sensation worldwide, he became a lifeline for people all over the world that were grieving the loss of jobs, isolation, the fear of this, very much unknown virus at the time. And now here we are at the end of the film, and we are collectively grieving him, the loss of him. But once again, he's our lifeline in that everything he stood for and everything he gave to people will live on through the film, through the children's books. So I really felt like I owed it to him and his legacy to address it.
And it was a tribute to him, learning more and more about each other as you got to know each other. And he was your best friend.
Yes, he absolutely was. As I say in the film, my best friend, my therapist, everything. I couldn't get together with people at the time, and he's the one I went and hung out with.
I have to ask, in your past and kind of knowing the area where you live in, did you ever, were you one of those people who would walk down the street and see somebody interacting really lovingly with an animal, any animal, and look at them and say, oh, yeah, it's one of them. It's one of those kind of people.
Yeah, you know what? Actually, thankfully, no, because I've always been just, in love with all kinds of animals. I'm a huge animal person. I've always had a cat or a dog when I was little as well, but mostly, cats, because I'm a condo girl, so it's easier. But I'm the kind that will stop and watch squirrels for hours, or or I could go to a wildlife center or a zoo, and I'm mesmerized by animals, and I think they have so much to teach us. But I will say I had never had any type of kind of interaction with ducks that much. I see them, and definitely not a goose. Never, ever have I been around a goose. And so that was a completely new experience.
Cheryl, what did you know about geese before this film?
I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know the difference. And I was, not even really, I knew people would buy these little Easter ducks sometimes. But I was still very uneducated in the fact that those are domestic, and then they get dumped and that they cannot fly because it's the way they're bred. So, with my experience with Honk, I was learning, right along, and hopefully the audience will see this. I'm learning right along with them, throughout this film. And thank goodness I had a dear friend in New York that helped connect me with a woman there who, on a daily basis, she is out there at Prospect Park in Brooklyn and Central Park, and she is rescuing domestic waterfowl every day with a group and finds them homes and sanctuaries, So she really helped guide me, because I didn't know one thing about wild or domestic geese. I didn't know what to feed them. I did not know anything about them. So I was very grateful to learn about that, and was shocked to realize how big of a problem it is.
You had your own way of communicating.
I love you. I love you. Yes, 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 yes.
When I first met him, he's the one that decided, hey, I'm going to have a relationship with you. And he, when I tell you, I was just standing there looking at the pond. It was a beautiful day. I was standing there by myself, and the loudest, most obnoxious honking sound I had ever heard, it starts happening just over and over and over again. And he is making a beeline towards me. So, it took me back by surprise, but I kind of, baby talked him a little bit like you do, with a pet. And then, kind of went on my way. And then, of course, as you know, tried to follow me home and all of that. So when I went back the next day, I saw him across the pond, and I just thought, was this a fluke? And I thought, well, let me try to communicate with him. So I mimicked that honk sound that he made. And that's really kind of how his name came to be then, because I just started going, honk, 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 honk. I started doing this. And I know people, anybody in the vicinity was like, that woman's crazy, poor thing. she's lost her marbles. But when he heard that, his neck popped up. And I mean, he got in that water and came across honking back. So from that day forward, you know, that's sort of how we would talk. And then it just, I would say hi to him and he would honk back, and we would do this banter. And he was quite the sidekick, because when we would do these Zoom calls with classrooms or Girl Scout troops, we started getting requests to Zoom with some of the children that were in class. He would sit right over my shoulder, and I really referred to him as like a Muppet, because I felt like there has to be somebody operating him. He's too good. Because I would look at him and he would look at me, and then we'd look back at the camera. I'd ask him something and he'd just go like, "Arr!" I mean, he would answer. So
He was a poser. He was a poser.
He was a poser big time. So we definitely, you know, I believe he absolutely understood me, and I, you know, for the most part understood him. So that's how that language started.
Well, but he also became very affectionate.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. He was and you know, people think, and we address this in the film, that you think about a bird and you think, well, they don't bond with people like we would, you know, our domestic dogs and cats or something like that, or even a bunny maybe. But no, he knew me. You know, he could be maybe begging for food from somebody else at the park when I would get there, you know, kind of hovering around their picnic blanket or something. And I got there, and I mean, it was just as if I had called my dog to me or something, you know. It was really amazing.
Let's talk about the filmmaking. Have you ever done a nature-based film before?
No, I had not.
All right.
And I also had never directed a documentary where I was going to be one of the primary subjects as well. So that was very odd. And, you know, and I didn't start out going, wow, you know, this is something I can kind of market this and, you know, get this out. There was never any intention like that filmmaker thought process.
Mhm.
I really started out just going live on Facebook. And because my intention was to share it with my friends and family, because I thought nobody's going to believe this. And then as his so that's where a lot of that video came from, you know, just me holding a selfie, you know, video, you know, with my iPhone. And thank goodness, you know, they have pretty good quality now these days. But when he started to get more popular, and I realized that apparently he had a mate and she was up the creek on a nest, and I started to learn about the plight of domestic ducks and geese, that's when I thought, okay, there's a story here that can also raise awareness. I didn't want to make a film that was just a cute film between, you know, me and a goose and we have a cute relationship. I wanted to also raise awareness. That's the mission of my film company. And so I've always made films that deal with marginalized groups. And I always look at that as human rights issues. But then all of a sudden, you know, here we had, I said, well, this is a marginalized group. It's domestic ducks and geese that have no choice when they're dumped. And so that's how that started. So I had to work around how to film myself other than these selfie videos. So thank goodness my spouse was willing to go, okay, I'll hold the camera. And it didn't lead to divorce, thank goodness, even though I was very bossy. And I was like, what are you doing? Shoot it this way. But that's the only way I was able to get some, you know, obviously better quality and the good mic and all of that.
So she was shooting the shots in the car and the narration and all of those great shots in the park, right?
Everywhere we went, you know, she filmed. And when I first went to Rogers and met Kathy Rogers, and they were incredible. So I was very lucky to have that ability to have those kind of things shot. the interviews, the sit down formal interviews, I was able to do that with Kathy Rogers and things like
Right.
that. But most of the B-roll and all of that had to be shot by someone else.
Well, so when you found your story, your narrative for this movie, you could really move forward with this and make it something more than just an Instagram.
Yes, exactly. And especially, I was doing the raising awareness, learning about that, but then I was also, hanging out with him every day. And so, the storyline was going with him getting viral and all of that, but I knew I had to find this mate. And I did think it was odd that I hadn't seen her and that Honk was more concerned to hang out with me than his mate. And I knew that was unusual behavior, but I still, and with the guidance of really that professional woman that I was talking to from New York, she was like, you do not want to separate them, if she's somewhere there. So, I knew part of the storyline was I can't move forward with any of this until I find out what happened there. And I searched many times. I would go back and look. I never found her, and would go on different kind of hiking paths. And the creek kind of opens up more into some wooded areas. And one day, thankfully, I did. When I found her, that's when I knew, okay, now this narrative's moving forward. Now we have to give Honk a new beginning and a new life, because he was in danger as well. As you saw, I found him with a fishing hook in his wing. I found him with fishing line. One day he came out of the pond swimming to me and he was limping. And then I looked, and the fishing line was wrapped so tight around his foot. And thank goodness, I was able to get it off, and he allowed me to do that. And I saw him in the streets, almost getting hit by cars. And unfortunately, there are times, as thank goodness Honk has beautiful humans all over the world that love him. But there were occasions when I saw, some young people, sometimes just trying to, grab him by the wing and pull his feathers and either take pictures or, they were just aggressive towards him. And he was really scared. So I knew I needed to get him out of there.
Well, and you also have a message in the film about environment and about garbage and what it can do for wildlife. And I thought that was very positive.
Oh yeah. Many times he would peck at like the little plastic tabs that, come off of a little orange juice thing, those little plastic tabs, or, any kind of trash and styrofoam. I never realized how much styrofoam is in these waters. So, it looks like food to him. It looks, it could be like a little kernel of corn, cracked corn. Sometimes people bring, or a little piece of bread. And so he would pick at that. And so I'm sure he had styrofoam in his system, a lot out there.
So the question is, are you still taking your walks down by Turtle Creek, looking for the next Honk?
Oh gosh, I think I need a moment because this has been such a big thing. But you know what? I do.
You're my sunshine. Yes, you are. Mwah. I love you. I love you.